Before I start this exercise, I'm going to show what the end result would be. So I've neatened this analysis up a bit compared to what the end of this video is going to look like. So this is what the end result would look like. Orders and contacts are strongly correlated at 90.84%, as should be expected. Orders for weeks 2 to 5 have seen an average weekly growth of 7.65%. This is encouraging. The high-level view of the number of contacts conceals some concerning details. Please see this worksheet. So essentially, during the exercise, I haven't created a new worksheet, but we've used this graph to have a more granular look at the data as opposed to just the overview of the data. So we've taken a more granular look so that we can extract some more insights. Firstly, the 4 contact types of the highest volume concern matters relating to poor service delivery and potentially poor application user interface design. Both these matters concern our performance, which is a very important point. The combined average for the 4 highest volume contact types is 168, and the combined average for all remaining contact types is 34. So there's a significant difference there. This is alarming and should be acted on. Secondly, the trend line of contact types concerning matters such as I forgot my password and other are relatively flat. However, the trend lines for the 4 most prominent contact types are very steep. This suggests a developing problem which needs to be addressed as soon as possible. So over here we've used Sparklines to see what the trends look like for the top 4 contact categories, and as you can see, these situations seem to be on an upward trend. Even though orders are on the rise, contact relating to poor service delivery and customer confusion is also rising at an alarming rate. I will now show you how the process I've gone through in order to arrive at these conclusions.
This is an analytical assessment that I've got. I'll be working through a couple of questions. This one just does 3 questions for this part, just in the interest of keeping the videos short, so it's not too lengthy. So we've got some data. Let's read this. The table below contains fictional order and customer contact data for 6 weeks. So this is some type of food delivery company. So we've got some orders data for 6 weeks, and we've got contact data. We've got a reason for contact. We've got the weeks at the top, so we've got a count for each type of contact per week. Okay, so we'll just start with the first question. Complete the row label total contacts. That's pretty simple. So a nice shortcut for that is Alt equals. If you press Alt plus equals, then it sums the data above your row, and then you can just drag that across. That's pretty simple. 1.2, create a line graph of total orders on the left axis and total contacts on the right axis by week. Add headings, data labels, and trend lines. Fine. So we're using total orders and total contacts. Let's use that. Keep control in to select both data sets, and then we'll insert a line graph. Let's use a line graph. Although this presents a problem because we can't actually clearly see what the data is for total contacts. Then we'll use a combo chart so that we can get the total contacts on the secondary axis. So let's just change the chart type. Combo down there. Total contacts is already a line. Total orders, let's make that a line as well. And then on the secondary axis, let's just see total contacts on the right axis. So I want contacts, total contacts on the secondary axis. Great. So now let's see what we can do with this. I want headings. Let's just rename that total orders and contacts by week. That's our heading. Want data labels. Let's add data labels. We can actually add that below. We can see them, and we can add trend lines. First though, let's see if we can move this total contacts line slightly down so that these two lines don't interfere with each other. Yeah, it's not, the absolute values aren't important, it's more the relative values and the correlation between the two. So if we can move this total contacts line down, this graph will be a bit neater. Let's remove that. So what we can do for that is, let's just make let's increase the maximum, which should push this. Let's 2,500. That's fine. That's fine. Let's maybe try 2,300. Okay. Now it's a bit easier to see these values. Considering we've got the value, the data labels, we don't need the axes. Oops. What have we done? Okay, seems like we need the axes there. Now, what they're asking for is trend lines. Fine, let's add some trend lines for total contacts, and then trend line for total orders as well. I think in this case, there's a linear trend line is appropriate because you won't be having much fluctuation, hopefully just a consistent increase. Let's display the equation and the R squared values. Just move that down here. There we go. So that's our line graph. Total orders on the left axis and total contacts on the right axis. Got our heading, got our data labels, and we've got our trend line. Great. Next question. Comment on the trend lines and any concerns that you would raise with management. Okay, so the high level overview here is it's looking pretty good. We've got consistently increasing orders and contacts, but we need to dig into that a bit, right? So essentially what we're doing is we're looking at the totals in this graph, and if we want to have a better understanding of the data, we need to analyze this data. More specifically, we need to have a more granular look at what's happening. So let's create a chart. Let's do this. Go Alt F1 so that we can have a closer look at what is happening here. Right? And immediately we've got some standout features. So let's just add some comments. Let's add here correlation, contacts and orders. Let's turn the correlation. Let's move this chart. We'll get to that now. Let's get the correlation between this and the contacts and the orders. Right, so there's a strong correlation. Okay, we see a correlation between contacts and orders. This is expected. Let's add that in there. 20.84%. This is expected because as the orders increase, we can expect more contacts to be made. Okay. Now, are there some concerns? Potentially. Let's have a look at the four highest contact areas. So the four highest contact areas the four highest contact areas are one, poor food quality. Then we have my order was delivered late. Then we have I never received my food. And then we have how do I place an order? Is that correct? Got poor food quality, my order was delivered late, I never received my food, and how do I place an order? Right. So these are the highest contact areas. This may be problematic. This may be problematic considering that all these areas relates to our performance. Our performance, or in the case of number 4, how do I place an order, or a potential application user interface issue. And the keyword here is our, because as we can see here, payment issues may be our problem, but it's not particularly an operations problem. Whereas spam calls, we aren't necessarily making a mistake if with a spam call. With I want to sign up my restaurant is potentially also a user interface problem. I forgot my password would be a problem with the customer. So the point here is all of these eye contact areas relates to our performance, and that's important. That may be problematic. So let's check the average contact for these 4 areas versus the rest of the areas, right? Average contact for 4 highest contact areas. Average. Let's go. It was poor food quality and delivered late. So let's take poor food quality, delivered late. And then we've got never received and how do I place. So okay, never received and how do I place. How do I place? There we go. Right. So let's round that down. So the average contact for the 4 highest contact areas is 168 contacts. Average contact for remaining areas is average for order delivered on time before quality, delivered late. Let me see my food. The driver spilled my food. That would be the next. Payment issues. There we go. And then lastly, do drivers carry a card machine? Right, so these are the remaining areas. Close that out. You can see the average contacts for the remaining areas is 34. So these 4 areas have a significantly higher average contact count, which suggests that there may be a problem that needs to be addressed. Average contact. Okay. 168. This is 54. The remaining areas. Let's just put that in our block. This may indicate that there is a developing problem that needs to be addressed, right? So that's the first issue, that there seems to be a much higher count for these problem areas, which relates to our performance or things that we are in control of, right? Now, to give more context here, let's take this. Let's see what these trends look like. So we've got poor food quality, but so we're trying to understand what's happening here, right? Not place an order. So we want to see what the trends look like for these 4 areas. So what we're going to add here is a Sparkline. Where do we find Sparklines? There we go. And want to use that. So this is for poor food quality. Let's add that Sparkline. This one, my order was delivered late. Let's insert. I wonder if we can do this. Perhaps let's make sure that we're inserting the correct things. Line, my order was delivered late. There we go. This is for I never received my food. Line. Okay. This is for how do I place an order. Let's insert this Sparkline. How do I place an order? Right. So here we've got a trend line, which suggests that these 4 top contact areas, the problems are developing, the problems are increasing. There's an upward trend which suggests that the problems are getting worse and something needs to be done about this. Yeah. So essentially, this is what we can glean from this data set that we've received, is that the highest contact areas are problematic areas that relate to our performance or things that we have control over. And then secondly, these 4 eye contact areas have an increasing trend line, suggesting that it's a developing problem that needs to be addressed sooner. I'll move on to part 2 in the next video.